There was more to the events in Manila than merely a disturbance. It was a moment that prompted the tennis world to reassess. In this sport, the term shock is used way too frequently. Tennis is a game where favorites falter, rankings drop, and seeds lose. However, the events that took place in the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center felt different. It wasn't chaos. This was a declaration. It wasn't just Camila Osorio that Alexandra Eala defeated. She revealed a discrepancy between reality and perception. There were strong expectations going into the Philippine Open. Local fans showed up with hope, not certainty. They were hoping for glimmers of hope. They sought indications of advancement. Domination under duress was something they were unprepared for. Camila Osorio, a player developed via protracted fights and violent rallies, stood across the net. A grinder by nature, a former world number 33, thrives by making opponents uncomfortable, irritated, and ultimately desperate. This was meant to be her domain on slow, hard courts in high humidity. This game appeared to be extremely biased on paper, and the opening set adhered to that script flawlessly. Osorio grabbed charge of the tempo right away. She wouldn't give Eala a pace. Every rally was made uncomfortable. Anything to disrupt rhythm, including high balls, low slices, and awkward spins. Eala's escape hatch, her forehand, began to misfire. There was less noise. Tension increased. Osorio closed the match 6-4 with veteran poise, breaking early and never letting go. Everything was pointing to a standard conclusion at that time. However, expectations aren't always met in tennis. Between sets, something moved, although it wasn't very noisy. No eruption was seen. Body language has not changed significantly. The intention was altered. Eala started to bend a wall rather than try to overcome it. The left-handed forehand evolved from a crude weapon to a scalpel. Osorio was forced to make lateral sprints in oppressive air due to cross-court angles. Points were stretched. Recovery slowed. The demonstrations came to an end, favoring patience and started rewarding initiative. The moment that broke the night open then arrived. Eala was just 1 point away from losing control once more while serving at 3-3, down 15-40. Most players protect. She launched an assault. The line was painted by a broad serve. Ace. She advanced and finished at the net without hesitation on the subsequent point. The hold landed like a punch. The audience sensed it right away. Belief replaced what had been nervous support. The sound turned into pressure. All of a sudden, Osorio was more than simply an opponent. An entire stadium was being played by her. In the very next game, AA broke. Rankings were no longer a factor in the match after that. Something uncommon was uncovered in the third set. Rather than contracting, it accelerated. She stepped inside the baseline. On the ascent, she took balls. Osorio was not allowed to reset points by her. This was no longer reactive tennis. This was intended to be the initial strike. A 24-shot surge at the end of 2 games spoke it all. Osorio threw defense, spin, height, and variation. Eala took it all in. Then, when the opportunity arose, she finished it with a forehand down the line that stopped everyone in their tracks. Osorio did not pursue. She just stared. The break was that. Mistakes began to appear. Body language tightened. With each swing, the crowd's shout became louder. The quiet before contact felt more oppressive than the actual humidity as Eala served for the match. After a lengthy final voyage, it abruptly came to an end. What the eye already understood is confirmed by the figures. Eala converted 4 of 5 opportunities when it counted most after going barren on breakpoints early. She completely changed the pattern with her second serve. Net approaches weren't acts of desperation. They were well-considered choices that paid off. This wasn't luck. This was the act of execution. Beyond the scoreline, Osorio is hurt by the defeat. She was supposed to be in control of this draw. Instead, it showed a vulnerability against aggressive left-handers prepared to take risks early. Defense was insufficient in a hostile environment. For Eala, this was the missing chapter. As a youngster, we witnessed her victory. On tour, we have witnessed the developing pains. However, defeating a player of Osorio's caliber in these circumstances with this degree of poise completely alters the dialogue. This has nothing to do with hype. This concerned conviction catching up to aptitude. The Philippines didn't just witness a win. They observed the arrival of a contender. A country that was well known for basketball suddenly became passionate about tennis. And the question has changed as Eala proceeds. The question of whether she belongs here is no longer relevant. It's the extent of her impending journey. Every action, every modification, and every second of this run will be monitored. Because what began as a gathering of people at home searching for magic has grown into something much more. History doesn't always make a big announcement. Sometimes it earns your attention point by point. Alexandra Eala also made sure that everyone in Manila paid attention. The scoreline isn't the most dangerous point in a game like this. It's the moment when pressure shifts. Unlike someone who had just leveled the match, Alexandra Eala did not return to her chair after winning the second set. She walked back like someone who has figured something out. She had discovered that realization is deadly in a decisive set, that the wall could be stretched, that the rhythm could be broken, and that Camila Osorio could be moved. In order to reset, slow down, and suffocate the underdog early, veterans typically take advantage of the break before the third set. For Osorio, that was the anticipated script. Rather, the reverse occurred. From the opening games of the decisive, Eala began stealing time. She began taking the ball earlier, moving inside the baseline and cutting down on points that had previously stretched on forever. That is awareness, not impulse. Time is money when it comes to a counterpuncher. They have less options the less you give them. Osorio's legs started to feel it. The lateral movement became more intense. Each dose caused the recovery to slow down just enough to be noticeable. That delay is undetectable on paper. It's everything at this point. The rally that defined the evening then took place. A 24-shot exchange took place in 2 games total. Osorio hurled everything in her direction. Height, spin, slices, changes of pace. It was a test of courage and patience. Eala would have forced the subject earlier in her career and failed. She waited this time. When the short ball finally appeared, she drove a forehand down the line that landed like a hammer. Clean. Final. Osorio did not pursue. She simply gazed at the mark. The psychological break was that. The mistakes were not technical after that. They had strong feelings. Each rally bore the weight of the audience, the scoreboard, and the feeling that control was slipping away. Meanwhile, it became more acute. She didn't move in despair, but with purpose. Every internet visit conveyed the same message. I'm not holding out for your absence. And it was successful. The success rate was quite low. On her terms, the points ended. When the score reached 5-3, the stadium plunged into a rare silence before each serve. Anticipation, not anxiety. Eala served with composure and clarity. No hurry, no fear. After a lengthy game-set match, Osorio's return marked the end of the final point. This is the detail that alters the story. This victory wasn't based on a single incident. Layered modifications were used throughout its construction. After failing to convert early chances, Eala got merciless on break points. Once a liability, her second serve improved height and direction. Her hostility became deliberate rather than careless. That isn't luck, that's maturity accelerated. For Osorio, the loss poses unsettling concerns. It's more about flexibility than skill. Pure defense is insufficient in hostile situations against opponents who are prepared to take time away. You become stuck in the pattern if you don't alter it. Manila also showed no forgiveness. For Eala, the effects go well beyond the semi-final. The way her name appears on a draw sheet is altered by this type of victory. Respect in the locker room is altered. It modifies one's own beliefs. She's no longer striving to prove she belongs. She is beginning to set the terms. And one question becomes more prominent as the competition progresses. What happens when her confidence really takes hold if she can play like this under such pressure? The next match is where that response begins. No one enters the court against Alexandra Eala with the expectation of an easy night going forward.